Their executive vice president, Stephen Jones, is down at the Senior Bowl, and he spoke to the media yesterday about the state of his team's roster, and he had interesting things to say.
We want continuity, but we also want change. And obviously what we've done, hadn't gotten the job done. We accept that. We accept that our fans can have frustration, that we hadn't gotten that job done. And you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect something to change. So we need to change, but at the same time, we've got a lot of things right.
Okay, so, I don't know what he just said. That was just a bunch of words. He just said we need to do things the same, but we need to do them differently, and we've been doing them right, but we've been doing them wrong. So I'm not 100% sure what we just all listened to. All of that said, you made a pretty interesting statement. It has been very fashionable to dump on the Cowboys this week since the hiring of Brian Schottenheimer and all the rest of that. You made a very interesting observation in our meeting this morning about exactly where this roster actually is.
This is not a rebuild, Greeny. Yeah. If the four of us were running an NFL team and we said we had a really good quarterback, now we could debate, is he 6 or 10? Dak Prescott's a really good quarterback. We have an elite difference-making wide receiver who's a point scorer in CeeDee Lamb. And arguably, we have the best pass rusher in all of football. We would be off to a heck of a start building a team that should have sustainable success, which is objectively they've done in the regular season over the last several years. So they have to make changes. And we know, Greeny, that this is historically great at running back in this year's draft. Amongst other needs they have is the running back position. So my point is, lots of work to be done, but in terms of the hard parts of building a team, they are in place.
Do you agree with that, Bartholomew, or not? You look skeptical.
Because I'm writing down, you say the quarterback, and you got a receiver.
Wide receiver.
I named 5 people. Last I checked, it takes 22 to win football games and put out there. You need depth, especially, with the 17-game season. And what I would say is, that's good, but I think they're closer to a rebuild than they are a reload, right? When you consider the fact that the two teams in this division are better. If we all were sitting here picking, where we would think the Dallas Cowboys would be next year, we would probably say third in the division, right? Because you believe that we talk about a team in their division that's going to be playing for the Super Bowl, that has a lot of young talent, that's ran correctly. And, when you listen to Steven saying that, it's time to do something different, I love Shotty, but that's a common type of hire, right? Somebody that's a first-time head coach, somebody that's, not going to challenge Jerry Jones. I think that's kind of doing the same thing and expecting a different result. This is the worst that the Washington Commanders are ever going to be. They got a pocket full of money. They got a lot of young talent, and they have the ability, because of the young talent, the young quarterback, that guys are going to take discounts because they feel like they can win a championship with this guy. So they're going to get a rush of free agency of guys coming there simply because the quarterback is so special. So, yes, Dak Prescott is, 1 or 6 or 10 or whatever. But you can argue that the two other guys in this division might be above him.
Yeah, you could. I think what you're hearing with the Cowboys, what Stephen Jones is saying, look, we won 12 games 3 years in a row. You put yourself in a position to contend. At some point, it's going to go your way. Whether that turns out to be true or not is up for debate. But this year, they didn't. Over the previous years, over most of what preceded this year, the Cowboys were very good at building rosters that did have depth. Right? You could suffer an injury at cornerback or at left tackle and still play at a high level because they had guys that could fill in. This year, that didn't happen. And I think they're assessing, did we miss on some draft picks? Do we need to do something differently than we've done in recent years because some more holes have shown up on our roster than we realized were there? There's a happy medium between doing absolutely nothing in free agency and going, crazy in free agency, and they need to find somewhere along that spectrum to land, because last year they didn't do anything, and again, they had more holes to fill than they thought.
So what you're saying is they need to be a little bit the same and a little bit different.
Exactly, but I think
so.
That's
maybe he was right.
We tend to know what we're doing. This past year, we kind of got hit in the face with, all right, well, maybe you didn't have as good a team as you thought you had or you usually had.
Real quick.
Yeah, Greedy, after next Sunday, next 4 months is going to be these 10 teams need a quarterback, and one of those teams isn't Dallas. Right. That's a massive head start.
Matchmaker. Tannenbaum, I'm starting with you. Which team do you love for Aaron Rodgers' future?
Greedy, when it's all said and done, I think it's retirement. He's had a great run. He has a lot of other interests, which you've talked about off air, and I think maybe it's time to make that transition. A couple of years in New York didn't go as well as he had hoped. So to me, it could be time to call it a day, and whatever else may be next, the world will await.
Bart, you watch every snap of the Jets season. What do you think?
I think he should come back. I think that's the Jets.
To which team? To the Jets?
To the Jets. I think it's the best option. I think you bring him back for another year. Listen, you're all in with this thing. Listen, when you think about Peyton Manning, it took him 4 years. He got 1 Super Bowl. Brady, he won in his first year, but he was there for 3 years. This is really Aaron Rodgers really his only second year on the field. I think what he did at the end of the season, Fashanu coming in, being able to get him protection. We saw the ball go down the field. You have to recruit your young talent on this football team before you lose. Going with a new quarterback, going with a Justin Fields is going to do nothing but make those guys ask for a trade.
I mean, you're out of your mind. Like, it's absolutely insane to even consider bringing this player back. You say it didn't go as well as he hoped. That's like saying, like, the Chicago Fire didn't go as well as Mrs. O'Leary's cow hoped it would when he kicked the thing over in the bar. Like,
that's exactly what I was thinking.
Complete disaster in all facets. What on earth is the argument to bring this back? Like, you say you're all in.
28 and 11.
Here's what I would.
28 and 11.
As a fan of the team, I watched.
What's 28 and 11?
Touchdown to interception
ratio, and he threw for 4,000 yards, which only no Jet had, I believe, since Namath. Here's the thing. If you watch the documentary on Netflix, I don't think Rodgers wants to retire.
No.
That's the sense I got from watching it. I don't know that he's going to think the Jets are the best place for him, and I don't know that they're going to think he's the best option they have. But I think he will play next year. I think it's just a question of where. Okay, who is my next? Mike T, I'm going right back to you.
Willery.
Who should pair up with Russell Wilson? Who do you love for Russell Wilson?
Yeah, the love connection, I love it, Bart. It's easy. It's Pete Carroll in Vegas. Ooh. What does Vegas need? They need stability. And when you have Pete Carroll, you're bringing him for experience and stability. What does Russell Wilson have? Experience and stability. We know the ceiling is much lower than it once was, Greeny, but you put Russell Wilson with Pete Carroll, you're going to get representative quarterback play. It's going to give them stability to build off of.
You like it?
Didn't they break up already?
Yeah.
Like, who want to go back with their ex? And how does Russell Wilson feel like, hey, man, you traded me and brought in Geno Smith? I think it's a better chance for him trying to trade for Geno Smith than it is for him trying to get Russell Wilson. That doesn't light up the fan base when you think about Russell Wilson coming there. I mean,
if
maybe
you're going to try and talk
residency.
If you're going to try and talk an aging sort of famous quarterback into playing, shouldn't you try to talk Tom Brady into it? I mean, don't you think Brady is at this point is a better option because he's the owner? Well, he could sell his part of the team and be
Tree Rollins.
This is my way of jokingly saying I don't agree with this idea either.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, the Steelers and Russell Wilson were a pretty good match. I think that they like him there. They felt like he did what they asked him to do. If you're the Steelers and you feel like you can go out and add at receiver and upgrade at running back and another year with that young offensive line getting better, like you can build it up around him. I think unless you have some glaring, young option that is going to be better long term, but I don't see that for them.
Isn't that the same thing we're talking about the Dallas Cowboys doing the same thing, expecting a different result? It's crazy because Burrow's going to be better this year and Lamar Jackson's still in that division.
I think they have work to do on their roster around the quarterback, the Steelers, no matter who the quarterback is.
Let me do one more, Mike T. Who do you love for Sam Darnold?
The Minnesota Vikings. If we go by recency bias, I know how it ended, and J.J. McCarthy is way in the wings. But Greeny, all fall, you're on this show talking about is Sam Darnold the MVP. He played great football, and imagine if he has a full offseason with Kevin O'Connell. They have skill players all over the roster, led by obviously Justin Jefferson.
So you're bringing him back as your starter?
Without question. And you look at guys like Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith. Quarterback development doesn't happen in a straight line. Why wouldn't you if you're the Vikings? It didn't. What, you're going to let 2 games mess up what he did the whole year?
Bart, why the face?
Because, if you're bringing him back, you're giving up on J.J. McCarthy before you give him an opportunity.
You're not giving up on him.
What are you going to do? What Sam Darnold's going to want a 4 to 5 year deal. It's going to hurt you salary cap wise for 3 years. You think Sam Darnold, with those numbers he put up, going to take anything less than $50 million a year and a long commitment?
That's the question. What's the deal? What does the contract look like if you're signing Sam Darnold and you're the Vikings? And I think it's fascinating because could you build a contract that's tradable, right? Like when J.J. McCarthy is ready, right? But to do that, you have to take a massive hit up front, right, on the signing bonus. But it's tricky.
The other interesting part of this is the inverse. Why would Sam Darnold want to leave? He's in the perfect situation
for money?
With a head coach But it's more than about money. Could I be there for the foreseeable future with a coach that believes in me, a really good offensive line, a good defense? If I'm Sam Darnold,
But a guy looking over your shoulder, ready to take the job.
It was a first-round pick and is dirt cheap because of it.
I'm not leaving if I'm Sam Darnold.
I mean, if I'm Minnesota and I think that J.J. McCarthy can play at any decent level, I can do what the Philadelphia Eagles did. I can do what the Legion of Boom did. I can build such a dynamic team of stars around him because he's cheap. We see it with San Francisco and Brock Purdy.